I am in no way superstitious. I love horror movies, love folklore, and mythologies, and I have a great respect for religion. My parents sometimes get a bit irritated about it, saying that I only believe the things I see. Having come from a religious family, I've expected to follow Jesus wherever he goes. Honestly, it's a bit of a drag. I can't live life following such a tight rule. I feel like it takes away from the part of humans being humans. My lack of faith is also the reason why I don't believe in ghosts, which is pretty ironic since I study in a high school that's supposedly haunted. My group of friends and I are in love with the supernatural. We're kind of like ghost investigators. When you're studying in a school that's more than 200 years old, it's impossible to keep rumors from flying around like crazy. One moment a kid sees a ghost in the school basement, next there's ghouls rising from the cabbage patch in the garden. We've pretty much debunked every rumor we hear. It takes about a day or two to find a logical explanation. Strange howling rainy days, echoing winds as it passes through the rooms, scary screeching in the basement, our jacked up janitor scraping metal with artificial claws again. There was, however, one mystery we couldn't debunk. Students, even staff, have reported crying from within the mop closet. Sobbing, some would say. Some even heard wailing that echoed far into the corridors at night. This, for some reason, we couldn't find an explanation to. There was only so much we could do. The closet was inaccessible to anyone but the janitors who held the key, and there was no CCTV footage installed within. So we set up cameras and audio recorders outside, but that didn't really pick up anything out of the ordinary. I was about to close the case of the crying mop closet as some sort of a gag to scare people given our school's background. I didn't believe it myself until one fateful day arrived that I would learn that there's much more to life than what we can physically sense. Something that would scar me forever. I had finished up doing my business in the boys' restroom when suddenly, as I was washing my hands to finish up, the school's broadcast system came on. The voice was a lady's who usually calls kids over to the principal's office or announces some special news that everyone needed to hear. That type of stuff. But this time, it was different. Her voice wasn't its usual calm. It sounded as if it was laced in fear. Every word. Like she was carefully piecing together her sentences. Apparently the school was on emergency lockdown, telling the teachers to lock the doors, shut all the windows, and turn off all the lights. An armed man had entered the school's premises, carrying a gun. He had shot the guard outside and was on his way in. Naturally, I became panicked. The lights had gone off in all the bathrooms, indicating all the power must have gone. Fighting my urge to stay and hide in the cubicle, I fled to the corridors. It wasn't my first time exploring those corridors in pitch darkness. I've done it many a times in the past with my friends, ghost hunting. I wasn't scared of the dark, but the jolt you get when you realize there's an actual threat in existence in these very corridors that could actually kill me, it made my blood flow through me faster than I'm comfortable with. As much as I hated it, I turned on my phone's flashlight for safe navigation. I knocked on every door I passed, asking, begging them to let me in, but none responded. I wouldn't have either. As far as they knew, I was a lunatic carrying a weapon. I needed to hide, and fast. My light would have definitely attracted unwanted attention. That's when I saw him. As I ran further into the hall, passing by the cafeteria and the library, my light caught a silhouette of a man, standing there, absurdly still, watching me in the dark. As if on instinct, my hands immediately turned the light off. I was bathed in the darkness. I didn't want to turn them back on, so I just ran as quick and as quiet as I could. Feeling my way down the corridor, I could hear him after me. He didn't even try to hide his echoing footsteps. His shoes tapped against the floor in rapid succession, far into the hall behind me. They were approaching me, fast. But that was it for me there, but my hands didn't stop searching. I felt the doorknob in the dark that was unlocked. I had never entered a room so fast in my life. I shut the door behind me and locked it. I felt around for whatever else was in the room and barricaded the door. I think it was a divider or something, as there was a lot of things that fell as I dropped it in front of the door. It wasn't too long after the man arrived and started banging on the door. I fell to the floor and pushed myself back until I felt the cold wall against my back. I heard sobbing. Somebody must have been hiding in there with me. Judging from the tone, it must have been a girl? I tried feeling around again, ignoring every leap my heart made every time the door slammed from the man banging outside. Finally, I found a hand and gripped it tight. It was unusually cold. Poor thing, she must have been scared. The sobbing turned into cries, and I felt a great urge to protect this person I was with. I located the rest of the body and hugged it tight. "It's okay. We're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. Everyone's gonna be fine," I whispered over and over into her ears. Shots rang as bullets punched holes through the door. She wailed loudly in terror. I pulled her closer, trying to hide my own fear for my life. The shots continued until the man completely emptied his clip. I heard the gun drop to the floor, followed by his footsteps. At first I thought he was leaving. Then I realized he was just going back and forth outside our door, banging occasionally, but mostly walking. The whole time, the girl sat there, rocking back and forth. She kept crying. I kept trying to calm her down. After a few minutes of silence from the man, he began to speak. "Listen, I know you won't believe me, but... oh God." His voice sounded scared, almost desperate. "You need to let me in. I have to get in there. Please!" I didn't respond. I sat there, listening to this insane man's pleads, almost with pity. "You can't tell anyone, okay? If they knew, they'd send me away. I don't want to be sent away." The man banged on the door, again and again. "Just let me in. Please. I promise. I won't hurt you. You have to." For almost an hour, I listened to this man beg. I tried to decipher what he was trying to tell me, but none of it made any kind of sense. Don't tell anyone? I had to let him in? And they'd send him away if I didn't? What was he trying to convey? His pleading could have been nothing more than cryptic. All of his words resigned as nonsense in my brain. I took comfort in burying myself in the girl's head, trying to not go insane from his loud, meaningless bickering. Oh, how the relief flooded me when I heard those familiar sirens echoing down the corridor. The police had come in. They finally entered the building. It didn't take long before they had the man in their custody. Thankfully, the guard had survived the gunshot, and nobody else got hurt. When the police found me and the girl, I let out a huge sigh of relief and tears of joy. I would soon later know her name was Amity Hudson. They all froze in place. The teachers accompanying them screamed in terror. One of them even fainted. In my arms, I clutched the body of a pale girl with multiple stab wounds across the chest. It took a whole week for the events to click sensibly in my brain. Now I understood what the man was trying to do. Turns out the armed man was our jacked-up janitor who got fired the day prior to the lockdown events. The man had been preying on unsuspecting girls at our school. Amity, who was murdered and dumped in the mop closet I hid in, was one of his unfortunate victims. I don't even know how he got the job at the school. God, I could only hope she was the last. What happened in those vents would unfold in my head for many days, months, and years to come, probably until the day I die. But there will be one question that still lingers in my head. Who was crying in the closet I was in? My son is an adventurous photographer. He likes to go for long hikes in the woods near our house and photograph nature. Sometimes he even goes camping with his friends over the weekend before coming home. He'd been planning on such a weekend this week and left early Saturday morning with some friends. I took the day to go visit some family out of town, and when I got back around 6 p.m. yesterday, I found several police cars outside my house. Thankfully, my son Joey was fine, but the boys found a body in the woods a few hours ago and hiked back into town quickly as possible. I spoke to one of the officers about the incident, all while Joey scanned over a map trying to identify the site. Joey took a photo of the body before coming back, a grisly crime scene which officers believe have the hallmarks of a ritual killing. With the body sliced open from gut to gullet, their organs removed and placed around the body in a halo shape. Joey headed back out with the police a short while after that evening to try and find the site as best they could. It made me very nervous, but I could hardly insist he'd stay given the situation. He's 17 and insists on being his own man. I also had mild comfort in the back of my mind since he's going to be with multiple police officers and my husband. I stayed home with the girls. I couldn't get a wink of sleep at all that night, as you can imagine, but it was comforting having the girls curl up with me, fast asleep. By the time the sun rose, we still had heard nothing, and I distracted myself with making breakfast for everyone. A cruiser pulled up, just shy of midday, with my husband and son in the back. They didn't speak when they got home for a long time. I bit my tongue as I waited for them to finish their cold breakfast before they started to tell me what events had transpired. They searched all night without success, and throughout the morning, they managed to find the place where Joey had seen the body thanks to the sun rising and shining its light through the trees Joey described in detail, but there was no body to be found, no grisly crime scene as shown in Joey's photo, and definitely no halo shape of organs. However, they found plenty of blood, but other than that, next to nothing. I'm told search dogs are being called in to search the woods for the body, but it seems unlikely it just got up and walked away on its own, free will, which means someone or something came back after Joey and his friends left, or worse, watched them leave. It terrifies me just thinking about it. The worst part about all of this isn't the first time they found a body in the woods, only to have it vanish. My husband and I both grew up here, and we both remember hearing similar stories as teenagers, from locals, about bodies being found and disappearing in the same woodlands. I don't know what it means, but I keep thinking about what might have happened to Joey if he had not come back when he did.